Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Art of Face Drawing with Tiffany DaVanzo. Tiffany is a portrait artist and instructor with global arts community Sktchy. She's a freelance medical illustrator specializing in art for medical publications, education, and the medical legal field. She's a 2003 graduate of the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Art as Applied to Medicine program. And she's a certified medical illustrator and has been a member of the Association of Medical Illustrators since 2001. She currently lives in East Tennessee with her husband and her two young daughters. So today, Tiffany is going to be sharing the basics of drawing a human face. I am thrilled to introduce you all to Tiffany DaVanzo. Tiffany, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so thrilled to see so many people here today. I'm super excited about this. I am going to go ahead and share my screen so we can see my drawing board. But I am going to be talking a little bit more about myself and the materials I'm going to be using just for a bit while people are still popping in. So let me go ahead and get my screen up here. Okay, all right. So now hopefully you can still see me somewhere little, and but the main focus is on my drawing board here. While people are just popping in, I will just tell you a little bit more about myself, and thank you to Nicole for the great intro, and thank you to Senior Planet for letting me be here today and to do this new program with you today. I'm a medical illustrator, which means I illustrate medical textbooks and journals. When you go to the doctor's office and you see those charts on the wall, that's the kind of stuff I do, or the patient education brochures that your doctor gives you, that kind of thing. But in the past 5 or 6 years, I've started spending a little bit more time focusing on another one of my passions, which is portraits. And I've started teaching that. So that's really enjoyable for me. And I absolutely love to do that. So that's what we're going to kind of do today. I'm going to kind of aim this towards a more of a beginner level. So if you've never picked up a pencil before, not to worry, this is going to be fine for you. And if you are someone who's just naturally artistic and creative, or you're just already a trained artist, just feel free to like zoom ahead and do your own thing. And hopefully you'll just enjoy the process of, drawing with however many people we're up to now. Oh gosh, like 170, however many people we end up with. So there's something really, a really nice sense of community when you're drawing something with a lot of people. So material wise, if you're going to be drawing along with us, you really only need pencil and paper, eraser, pencil, paper, eraser. You can use, a basic just 2B, just your regular old 2B pencil and some typing paper. Or if you have some extra materials, you can go ahead and have a sketchbook out. And I've got quite a range of pencils that I'm going to be kind of introducing you to, not because they're necessarily to have, but because you might just want to go out and hit the art store and get yourself some treats. So I'm going to go ahead and use a range of different pencils today, but absolutely, if you have paper and you have pencil and you have an eraser, that's all you need to know. So I see somebody's asking about who's asleep behind me. That's my office assistant. That's my cat Badger. There's a couple of them around, so we're going to hope that they don't interrupt me today, but they're always pretty close when I'm working. So, okay, I think that probably people are kind of starting to file in, and maybe everybody's kind of getting anxious to start drawing. So let's get going. I'm going to just kind of go through my basic method for drawing. There's no wrong way to draw a portrait as far as I'm concerned. You're just going to do what feels the most comfortable for you. But I am going to teach you some basic kind of steps that should help you create something that's, well, what I tell my beginner students is we're going for human, okay? So we're going for human. And if we get a likeness that looks like our model here, this is Stuart, then even better. So, all right, when you're ready, you're just going to grab a pencil. Let me show you. So if you do have a set of pencils, you're going to want to start with your lighter pencils, which will be your H's or your F's, and then you can work up to your darker pencils, which will be your B's. Just a regular standard pencil that you've used forever is a 2B, so that's kind of a medium darkness. And that's kind of what I'm going to be starting out with, okay? This type of pencil is called a Blackwing. It's a fun pencil to use, but it is basically very equivalent to just a basic standard 2B pencil. So, all right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to just start with a nice loose circle. And if you're holding your pencil, you're going to want to hold your pencil back a little bit farther and looser and keep your wrists kind of loose. As we get more detailed, we're going to creep up on the pencil until we're right down there, holding it tight. And then what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to get more details. So, but we're just going to start off nice and loose. Let me do one more thing here. I'm going to, I want to put a link to this image in the chat so that you all can get it. Okay, so that link, you can let me know if it works. That should open up to this image of Stuart. If you're working on an iPad or you're near your computer, you'll then be able to see it closer. Okay. And also, I've got handy, I do actually have it on my iPad, so I might pull that over at some point so we can zoom in. Okay. All right. So back to drawing, we're going to start nice and loose. We're going to just draw a circle. Now this circle is not going to be the entire head. The circle is representing the cranium. So it is about the top of the head down to about the nose. Okay, so that's kind of the bulk of the head. Let's see. Hopefully that link comes through. If not, I might be able to get my helper. Maybe Jordan can throw it in there again. Okay. All right, so once I have the circle for the cranium, I'm going to just look at my drawing, and his head, Stuart's head, is not completely forward. It has just the slightest of angles. So I'm going to drop a line down just to kind of indicate the midline of his face. And I'm going to do that just slightly off center. And I'm just kind of going by feel now, and I'm going down to about where I feel his chin would be. And it's going to be just a little bit lower than that circle. Okay. And then if you want to double check it, you can just kind of do, I use the quick finger method of measurement and just kind of go over and just kind of reassure myself that I'm about the right size. You're going to want to choose a size to draw that feels comfortable for you. Some people feel very comfortable drawing very large. Some people like to draw small. Either one is fine. I'm drawing, oh, I guess this is probably about 5 inches on my sketchbook here. So now that I've kind of established my guidelines, I've got top of head and bottom of head. I'm not really thinking about hair yet, and I'm not really necessarily thinking about his beard. I'm going to come back to my circle, and I'm just going to kind of lightly shave off the sides. And what I'm doing is I am turning that circle. Let's see if I can get my little skull here. I'm just shaving off the sides in that area of our temple. And that's going to get the head, it's going to create a line for us to use as reference for where our temples are. Okay. I'm going to see if I can open up my gallery, change it just a little bit so I can see if everybody is with me. Okay. All right. So once we have our head like this and we have the top of our head marked and we have our chin marked, now we're going to go ahead and divide the head into thirds. So if I'm looking down here, the bottom of our circle is going to be about the bottom of our nose. Just a second. Adjusting my screen there. Okay. So the bottom of the circle is the bottom of the nose, and the bottom mark is our chin. And then if we take the next third, that's going to fall, that's going to be our eyebrow line. So top of the head to eyebrows, eyebrows to tip of the nose, bottom of the nose, and then bottom of the nose to the chin is the basic way that we divide the face up. Okay. We're not going for perfection here. We're just going for a nice loose start. All right. So now I can come in and I'm going to kind of start contouring his face a little bit just to give me the outside shape to work in. I know I've got my eyebrows, my nose, my chin. So I'm just going to loosely come around his forehead here. And then down, and again, I've kind of shaved off that circle. So I'm going to narrow his face a little bit. And I'm just going to look and create an angle for the side of his jaw. When I'm working and I have a picture printed out, sometimes I actually do kind of use my left hand and my right hand to kind of create that angle, just to kind of trace it and feel it. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here on the other side. And you can see the line from his temple here. And I'm going to just come back a little bit from that and give myself a little hairline. And then come down and just kind of look at his jaw. And again, this is everything I'm doing right now, I consider to be an underdrawing. So I'm not worried about being perfect, or, you know, I can always draw over it. I can always go darker. Okay. And then let's just give Stuart just an indication of his hairline here. Just going to give that just that slight peak there. Little, it looks like I've taped it. It's a little cut off, but he's got a little kind of tuft of hair right in the middle sticking up. And again, I'm still holding my pencil fairly loosely and fairly far back because I'm making nice loose decisions as we're drawing. Okay, so now we have made it to our ear. The dimensions of the ear, and you can check this on your own face, are eyebrow to tip of nose. So if you kind of pull it over, you'll find that your ear is fairly close to being from the top of your eyebrow to the bottom of your nose. So I'm going to go ahead and use this reference line that I made for my eyebrow and come over and start to block in a little ear. And I'm just looking at the rough shape. And I'm going to come down to where the tip of the nose ends. Okay. And I'm not going to do any details in the middle yet. I'm not quite ready for that, but I am going to flip over to the other side and go as that head. We can't see as much of his ear on this side. I'm just going to give a little indication. Okay. And then the last thing I want to do before I start getting into the fun details is just give him a neck, something for that head to rest on. So I'm going to go ahead and look for some landmarks. And I can see that his neck on the right side, or his left side of his body, but our right is going to be in just a bit. I'm just going to slash over an angle. And then on the other side, we're going to come in a bit, just down. You can see his Adam's apple here. His head is turned, so his Adam's apple is off to the side a bit, just because of the position of his body. Just give an indication of that. And a quick loop of the shirt. Okay. So now he has an X. So now he's not a floating head anymore. So, all right. Moving forward, now we start to get into the fun stuff. Is everybody doing okay? Those of you who are drawing along. If you're not drawing along and you plan on just watching this through and drawing later, that's fantastic too. That's what I do a lot of times when I'm doing an online drawing class, which I do a lot. A lot of times I just watch it all the way through and then get my cup of coffee and go in the other room and draw. So, okay. So let's start working on his eyes. So the eyes are really what are going to kind of capture our portrait. And Stuart has really fantastic eyes. They're nice and deep set. We've got this nice shadow coming right under his eyebrows. He's got, you could tell he smiles a lot. He's got these beautiful crinkles at the end. So I want to go ahead and get into that. But before I can do that too much, I want to go ahead and define the eyebrows a little bit more. Okay. So what I'm going to do is looking off my midline here, as I'm just going to scooch over a little bit. And then I'm just going to be looking to block out the shape of this shadow, because the shadow and his eyebrow are kind of blending in together. I'll go back with more details later, but I'm just going to kind of give the shape of the shadow there. And then I'm going to flip over to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing over there. This one, shadow is shaped slightly differently. So I'll just kind of go in by feel. Okay. Again, just keeping it nice and loose. I am 0% worried about any mistakes I might be making at this point, because this is really just the underdrawing, and the more you build up, the more confident you get, and the more you can adjust your decisions to kind of get things more accurate. So, all right. And I'm going to go ahead and just give a little bit of attention to the bridge of his nose so that I'm able to space my eyes better. And I'm just going to do that by kind of coming down here and following the angle there. What I don't want to do is try to outline his nose all the way down on both sides. I'm going to just give an indication of the bridge, and then I'm just going to let that fade out. Okay, so that's just given me a little space to work with. So getting into the eyes then, because I'm a medical illustrator, when I think about the eyes, I'm always thinking about the shape of the eyeball behind the eyelids. So I'm always thinking about that roundness. And sometimes what I like to do is go ahead and just come in and look at the eyes and look at the way the lid is coming up over the top and the way it's curving underneath his eye and kind of forming that lower lid and just that thickness there. So I'm just going to very lightly, very, very lightly draw a circle. Okay. And do the same thing on the other side. And that's just reminding me that there is a round shape behind there. And that will help me as I'm drawing my lids to go over the top. Okay. So now looking in a little more detail, and just make sure we can see close enough. Actually going to switch just to a sharper pencil. This is just a mechanical lead pencil. It's just a graphite lead here, but it's got a nice sharp point. So I'm just going to switch to that. Or you can take a second and sharpen your pencil if you need to. Nothing's more important to an artist than a sharp pencil. So take whatever breaks you need to. So the shape I'm going to be drawing now is the shape of the upper lid as it comes up and over the eye. And I'm just going to look in here. Follow that angle up. Down and around. This is where kind of that underlying circle we drew comes in handy. So you're just thinking about how does the lid hug your eyeball. So it goes up, down, and around. And a lot of times our eyes actually have a lot of angles to them. So keep an eye out for angles. Okay, now in the center, the inner part of your eye, you've got the little inner canthus, right? That little kind of glob, right? And I always tell people it's one of my favorite anatomy words because it's called a caruncle. It's just an interesting little word for that. But it's important, right? Because it's where our tear ducts drain. Okay. And now I've just kind of gone over and given the under shape. You'll notice our lower lid is usually much straighter. There's just not as much drama. I think sometimes we think of an eye as kind of having like this shape, but really it's much flatter on the bottom. And yeah, just so keep an eye out for those kind of shapes. And now I'm just going to really lightly draw in the iris. And the thing about the iris is you almost never, unless somebody's really scared, see the entire circle. So it's going to be cut off at the top, it's going to be cut off at the bottom, or like in this situation, it's going to be cut off in both. So, all right. Okay, so the last thing on this eye before I kind of hop over to even up the other one is I'm going to look for this beautiful deep fold he has of his eye right there. And I want to go ahead and get that in. I don't at this stage worry about eyelashes. They're kind of a last touch. And you'll see that it looks like I've already drawn in this area on his lower lid, but really that's just the remnants of that circle I've drawn. So normally those are just kind of perfectly placed. So I'm just going to kind of outline that a little bit more. All right, so then we've got one eye. Let's go over here and get another eye done. Same process. You might find this one goes a little bit faster for you. And if you're wondering about measuring, it's handy sometimes to just keep a really small ruler nearby, and you can just kind of double check your measurements between eye to eye. There's usually about an eye's width in between your eyes. So almost like a third invisible eye in between your eyes, if you want to think in terms of space. So for mine, I'm actually going to just erase that back a little bit. I think I'm about to make it a little close, so I'm actually going to start it back just a smidge. Again, just looking at the space how much space is the iris taking up in the eye? We have less white space on this side than this side. Less sclera, so I'm going to do that. And that little point, and then go up here and add that nice deep fold in. Okay. So now that I have those details done, I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different pencil, back to my looser pencil, and just add just a little bit more detail to those eyebrows. Still not worrying about individual hairs, but you can if you'd like to. I just want to give it a bit of shape. Okay, so let's get down and start working on his nose. This is a really good time, if you have a chance, to go ahead and stand up and look at your drawing from a distance, because what will happen is you will just, when you step away from it for a second, you'll be able to see some things that you want to adjust, possibly. Or change. I just looked at mine on the screen and I'm thinking, oh, my eyes are too close together. I'm not going to worry about it. Like, if I was going to be precise, I would probably stop and push one over. But for today, I'm just going to let it be. And because I want to get onto other things. All right. But that's what, just looking at it, getting away from it for just a minute, just a second, just taking a step back. A lot of people like to look at it in the mirror. Hold your drawing up to a mirror, and the reflection, because it's flipped, will help you see things. Whatever works for you. But okay, so I'm going to go down and I'm going to go ahead and start working on his nose. I've got this line where we've measured and indicated, and I'm just going to go ahead and give a touch of nostril here. And I'm just kind of looking at the shapes. We don't want to draw just a big black circle. We want to kind of think about how the shapes and the shadow vary a little bit. So on this side, we can see a little bit more. On this side, we can see a little bit less. So adjusting that. And then I'm just going to give a light indication of the edge of his nose. And then I'm going to just double check some of my dimensions by just looking at the corner of the eye and how it relates down to the edge of his nose. So in this case, I'm going to, this is an eraser. It's my favorite little eraser here. It just comes in a stick like a pencil. I'm going to erase with it like a pencil. And I'm just going to adjust that a bit. And I might just give myself a little indication here of the side of his nose. And then at the end, hopefully we'll have time. We're going to come back and we'll add some of the shadows, and that's going to give everything a lot more depth. Now, if some of your planning lines are bothering you, you can come back at any time and kind of erase those out once we've used them more. Okay, so the mouth placement at the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin, it's about another third down from that. So here we can just see a little bit between his top lip and his bottom lip. So I'm just going to go down what I feel like if I was going to divide that third into thirds, about that, and just give an indication there. And then I'm going to start just adding the shape of that mustache. Just going to come right up under his nose. And it's going to extend past his eyes. Loop. So our model today is also an artist and a sketcher. I'm forgetting, I think, where he lives. Belgium, Germany, somewhere fun over in Europe. Well, he always has an amazing mustache in his reference photos. Okay. And then just adding a touch for the bottom lip here. So at this point, if you've got several features, we haven't filled in our eyes yet, or maybe you have, which is absolutely fine. Go for it. It should start to feel a little bit more like our subject, even if it's not a perfect representation. Drawing is a big leap of faith, right? Because until you have all of the features in, you're not quite getting the whole picture. So you have to just be willing to give yourself grace and to be patient as it goes until you have more of the features in. And then once it starts to come together, you get a second wind, you kind of feel like maybe you know what you're doing, maybe this is going to turn out okay. So for his beard, I'm just giving myself very light little roughed in lines in the direction of the hair growth. We'll have time to come back and add more detail, but the sooner I get all of our features down, the sooner we can start getting to the even more fun stuff. Okay. Okay, so let's get and work on these ears and then start refining his hair a little bit. So I'm going to just refine the side of his face. I am going to move this eye over. I may not get to do it while we're drawing together today, but I will before I go to bed tonight. So I'm going to give myself a little extra space. So I always say, well, if you want to learn about your drawing, try to draw and talk at the same time. You are using the right side of your brain to draw while trying to use the left side of your brain to sound like you know what you're talking about. So getting them to work together sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Okay, so I'm just drawing the upper rim of his ear now. That's the helix of his ear. And I'm just following the shape. This ear is easier, I should say. We just kind of want to make sure we get some indication of its size, where it's hitting. It's his face is tilted slightly up, so it's just slightly below the eyebrow. Actually going to take a little bit off the top of mine. And as we age, you maybe have heard that our ears grow. They don't actually grow. It's just that skin elasticity changes. And since our ear is basically just cartilage and skin, sometimes those lobes get longer, which makes the ear seem longer, but it's not growing, it's just changing. Okay. All right, moving on to this ear. Again, I'm just going to kind of do some loose sight measurements and just adjusting mine down a bit. Drawing is a bit like sports. Sometimes you have to change the plan. You have to change the play right in the middle. So just be flexible and go with the flow. So my ear trick is to think of drawing the ears like the song YMCA. The first shape we're going to look for in the ears is this Y shape, and that's in the center of your ear. And it's where this is called the anti-helix, and it comes out and it forms the top two shapes of the Y. So that's our Y. The M is the tragus, which is this little part that protrudes out a bit and protects your ear canal. On a lot of people, it has just a slight bump like an M. The C, of course, is the outer rim of our ear. And then the A, this one's a stretch. So is the deep part of our ear, so the concha. So that kind of bowl in the center of our ear. All right, so here I am working on my C. And then on a lot of folks, the helix, actually, the anti-helix, the Y part can actually stick out farther. And now I'm just kind of looking for the shape of that Y. And then I'm going to come in and add the M, add that little tragus. You can feel on your own ear. Okay. All right. So once you have all those components together, you've got an ear. Okay. All right. I'm going to just darken up his neck a little bit, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on the neck, not because it's not interesting, but I just want to come back up here and finish his eyes and do some shading. Just check, see how much time we've got. Hopefully everybody's hanging in there. And if you're willing at the ends, I'd love to put the screen on gallery view so I can see and have anybody who's willing hold up their drawings. Okay. Oh, he's starting to look quite regal. Love it. Okay, let's get in here and add a bit of shading to the eyes. So that will make him look a little bit less like a robot. Again, I'm just using, well, actually, I'll just go ahead and switch to a regular old 2B. And so what I usually do when it comes to doing the iris is I just give it a nice light solid fill. And you can think of it like spokes on the wheel and kind of shade out, or I'm just kind of giving it a solid fill in one direction. And then once I've done that, I come in and I just go ahead and find that pupil. And go ahead and shade that in. And then I like to erase out the highlights on the eye. So then I will come back in with either a tip of an eraser. This is a fabulous eraser if any of you happen to have a kneaded eraser. Because you can kind of get it to a nice little point. So anyone who maybe is new to drawing but decides they want to take it up, I would definitely go out and get yourself one of these. And you can just dab, erase a little fine mark. And I'm going to go ahead and use my little guy here because I erased too much. Okay, so the next thing we want to do with our eyes is remember that the upper lid is casting a shadow on the white of our eye. So we want to come in here and just darken up this upper lid line. And then we're going to give it a nice little cast shadow. And we can see some of the thickness of that lid. So I'm leaving that there. I don't know if you guys can tell, every time I draw this eye, I'm starting to shift it over a little bit. Sneaky, sneaky. So by darkening up that upper lid, I maybe you don't have to come in and put eyelashes in. And if you can look at the photo, you really don't see a lot of eyelashes. And then just going to darken the irises a bit more. You can take as much time as you want on your eyes. Get them to where they feel right for you. Unless there's some kind of weird lighting source, both of the pupils should be about the same diameter. I have drawn people where maybe the light is coming very heavy from one side and not on the other, and so the pupils are different. I'm just adding a little bit more darkness and kind of a gradient down from the top. That just helps give the eyes a bit more dimension. And I'm going to do the same thing to the white of the eyes. I'm going to add just a little shading in there under the top. Okay. All right, so now I want to come and start doing some of the shading on his eyes. And I'm going to go ahead and draw some of these fabulous expression lines. Eye crinkles, whatever you want to call them. My trick when we're drawing lines on someone's face is that you want to vary the thickness of your line. So you don't want to draw a really solid dark line. You want to have it so there are areas where you can barely see it. And you want to see that there are areas where maybe it's a little darker, a little deeper. So I am just picking and choosing which lines to draw. And then and again, if you have a chance, take a break and get a sip of water and just step back for a second and look at your drawing, and you can start to see the things about it that are really working for you and the things that maybe you want to adjust. And another thing I tell people, especially when they're beginning out doing portraits, is unless you're doing this as a commission or a gift for someone, remember, nobody is going to know exactly what this person looks like. right? So you can end up with a very good portrait where you've learned a lot, but maybe it's not a perfect likeness, and that is just fine. And I'm just adding some shadow in here. Again, he's got kind of fairly light eyebrows, so now I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit more of an indication of an eyebrow just by switch to a sharper pencil. Going in the direction of the eyebrow hair growth. Just a little, not too much. All right, so let's go ahead and start adding a little bit of shading to some other areas. Again, I don't know how well it's showing up on camera. We can see just some very light lines on his forehead. Which are important for that distinguished gentleman look. Shading, how you choose to shade your drawings as an artist is kind of a personal choice. There's no wrong way. There's so many right ways. Some people really like to shade all in one direction. Some people are kind of loose. Some people do it so perfectly blended that you can't even see shading. I'm a little bit more haphazard. I just do it according to my mood. And today it's just saying, do whatever. So I am just thinking about the direction that the skin is moving, that the skin is falling in on the face and kind of shading that way. So here we can see on our nose, we can add some shadow to both sides of the nose. That will give it dimension and shape without giving us that kind of cartoon nose look. And I'm going to just erase that tip down a bit farther. And you can always use your eraser as a drawing tool as well, because once you start erasing, then you are creating highlights, especially if you're smudging your drawing as you're drawing, which is just fine. There are some people like to draw with a piece of paper under their hand, things like that, so that they don't smudge, but it's hard to teach a class when you're covering half the drawing. So I just go with a smudge. I just work with it. Okay, just gonna add a little bit of shadow. You can see under his nose, it gets a little bit darker. And then his mustache is kind of salt and pepper. I'm just gonna make my sketches in the direction of growth. You can always come back with an eraser afterwards and erase out a little bit if I want. Some tone to that upper lip to push it back in space a little bit. You can erase as much as you want, or you can just draw over your mistakes. When you get really confident, you can draw with a pen, and then there is no erasing. And then you have to just kind of go with your mistakes. Okay, so there's a nice little kind of shadow on the bottom of his face. So I'm just going to go ahead and give myself some tone just to make it a little bit easier on me. Now I'm going to come back in here and start doing some of his beard. And don't feel like you have to finish everything. Sometimes some of the best things about a drawing are the areas that you leave unfinished. If I get far enough, I've got a couple sketchbooks over here I can flip through and show you what I mean. And it's certainly okay to get frustrated, but I think the best thing about drawing, whether you're drawing an apple or an orange or a person, is a little bit of being able to escape, to let yourself relax and focus on something. Listen to the sound of just the pencil scratching on the paper. Those are kind of just the little simple pleasures of drawing, for me at least. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here and give him a little hair up top. Now, if I were to really carefully measure hairline to eyebrow to the bottom of the nose, you'll see it is slightly bigger than a third. And that's normal. We have different shapes of hairlines and we have different shapes of faces. So whenever an instructor gives you a guideline like thirds, just remember that it's a guideline, and luckily we're all so unique that we all have differences. And it also varies on the position somebody is taking as they pose. So if someone's head is tilted slightly back, it's going to throw it off a little bit. They're making a face, etc. So again, I'm back to kind of holding my pencil back a little bit farther just because I'm not trying to be precise. I'm being a little bit looser and more energetic at the moment. But I should have mentioned it probably when I was working the eyes. I probably got down really tight. With hair, there's a lot of different tips and tricks. It's a little easier when you're working with somebody with long hair than with short hair, but you just want to look for the areas of darkness and light, and then kind of just relax a little bit on the idea of drawing every individual hair. You just kind of want to start to think about it in more terms of large blocky shapes. And the same thing, we can come down here to his beard and I can look and say, here's a spot that's darker. So I can come in and just add a little bit more attention to that. And then the underside of his mustache is darker. I can add a little bit more. So if you start to think about it in terms of darks and lights, it gets a little bit easier. Okay, I'm going to just give a little shadow. I can see this nice little shadow here on his neck. I'm just kind of going to rough that in really quickly. I'm going to come in here then and throw some shadow on this side of his face. You can see, I always tell people when I'm drawing, I think when you see something and you don't understand it, just feel on your own head. His temple has this nice little shadow. And when you reach your hand up and feel it on your own head, I feel like it's helpful to kind of indicate the anatomy that's underneath. Now I'm just going back and looking for areas of his face where there's a little shadow. There's this fold on our face, right? Our nasolabial folds, and I can see a little bit there. I'm going to just give an indication of that. And his nose, give a little bit more of the shading on his nose. Every time I come back to an area, I'm able to make decisions that adjust the final appearance. Another one of my favorite things to do is to work on a toned sketch pad. If you start with paper that already has a tone to it, then you can use a white pencil as well. And that really helps add this beautiful level of three-dimensionality. Okay. And one last thing, give the ear a little bit of love, do a little shading over here. Let's see, under that rim. And a nice dark shadow over here on that ear. Okay. All right. So now we have a nice little face, hopefully. work off of. And I know I'm gonna probably spend some more time on mine tonight and fix a few of the things that I didn't have a chance to. But yeah, you've hopefully made it to the end and drawn a face. Let me see if I can adjust my screen here a little bit. If anybody's willing to hold up their drawing and let us see. Okay, let me click on a couple people and see them bigger. Oh wow. Love it. Wow. Nice. These are fantastic. These are fantastic. Oh my gosh. Y'all are putting me to shame. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. These are really wonderful. Really wonderful. All right. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. I know I said I would leave a few minutes at the end for our host, but I think I've still got a few more minutes. Is there anybody who has any questions? I honestly haven't even had a chance to look at the chat to see if there's anybody who needed help or wanted to ask a question about something.
We have a few people in the chat asking if they could see other people's work.
Okay, other drawings, other
Yes.
or other the participants.
Yes.
Okay. How can I do that? Do I click
Might
on?
be helpful. It might be helpful if you stop sharing for just a second
Okay,
and
yes,
then
I can do that. Fabulous. Okay.
there we go. Love it.
These are
Love
great.
it. Yeah.
These are really great. There's something very Van Gogh about him, right? Like that's the kind of vibe that like I didn't get it from mine, but seeing all of yours, I feel like I'm seeing that, which is so fun. And I think, it really helps when you're able to see other people's artwork. You see that other people focused on different areas or were inspired by different parts of the drawing. So it's really quite fun. So wonderful. Wonderful.
We have a question in the chat from Marilyn. She's asking, what is the indentation between the nose and the lips called?
Oh, the philtrum right here. This little divot, yes. So and then you have the Cupid's bow is what we call the angle where the lips kind of come up and down. And then that one little dip is called the philtrum.
And Darlene is asking if you can review the ear.
Yes. Yes. So the ear, I'm just gonna look and see if I have a different drawing in here that might have a better ear to work off of a front view. Oh, here's one. Just share my screen again here for a second. Okay. So for the ear, this outer circle, the C, so if I said YMCA, so this would be the Y, and this is the anti-helix here. And if you feel inside your ear, you can feel it's not the outer edge, it's kind of the inner bump, and you can feel that cartilage. And that comes down and it splits into two parts, so it gives it that kind of Y shape. And then this part right here, the front part of your ear, where if you pinch it, you can reach behind it. Your ear canal is behind it. That's the tragus. And then the big outer ring is the helix, and that's the outer edge. And then if you get down to your earlobe and you squeeze, you can feel that the earlobe is the only part of your ear that doesn't have cartilage. So that's the squishy part, but everything else is completely shaped by cartilage. This little bump here, it's kind of best friends with the tragus. This is called the antitragus. And then this part, the deep part that we shade nice and deep, that's the part I kind of refer to as an A, even though it doesn't look like an A. That's the concha of the ear. So hopefully that's kind of helpful in terms of ear anatomy. The ear is one of my favorite things to draw. So, and if you haven't invested in a sketchbook, I would say get a sketchbook. The best advice I have to somebody wanting to try to start drawing is to just start a daily drawing habit. So these are drawings that I've done when I've been doing a challenge to draw every single day for 30 days. And so if you just choose go online and find somebody, or draw somebody in your family, and then just draw for 30 minutes, draw for an hour every day. And you can experiment with different styles, and you'll find that you just get better every day. Even if you are just learning from yourself, you will learn something every single day. So that's something I would encourage you to do, because y'all are certainly off to wonderful starts. And I think definitely there's some pros out there, because a lot of those drawings were just fantastic.
All right. Well, Tiffany, that was amazing. We have some folks asking where they could learn about more about drawing human faces in the chat.
Oh, well, there's a lot of online resources and online classes that kind of are set up like this. The company that I partner with a lot is called Sktchy, and we do a lot of art classes in a lot of different mediums. And the ones I teach are focused on kind of anatomy. So if you go online and want to look up Sktchy, or hopefully maybe we'll get to do this again with Senior Planet, which I would love. But yeah, there's a lot of different online sources out there, to either do it like for a Zoom call, or to find recorded lessons that you can go and check out as well. So
And one more question. Olson is asking, what size sketchbook?
This, I think I'm working in a 9x12 today. This one is a 7, or I guess I'm not showing my screen anymore. This one is about a 7x7. I think this is a great size to start with. This one is 5.5 by 8.5. This is a great size. I like it. They're a little bit smaller, so they're not quite as intimidating. The more white paper you have, the more intimidating it can be to pressure yourself to try and cover all that. So, if you start smaller and you're drawing a smaller portrait, then you can always get bigger. But a nice small size like this is a really good way to start. And then you can also draw other things besides portraits as well. I tell my kids and their friends, I say, just pick, pick something around the house, draw a piece of candy, draw, a cat toy, just find a small object and draw that. And then the more you draw a lot of small things, then you keep working bigger and bigger.
Gay is asking, what pencil did you use?
So I use several. The ones I was mostly using, these with this kind of interesting flat eraser. These are called Blackwing pencils, and you can look them up online, and they have different hardnesses, so they're a nice smooth pencil. And then the ones that I had in the lead holder, these were an HB or a 3B in terms of hardness. So the lead holders are nice because you can get a really nice sharp point. So if you're someone who likes to do a lot of high detailed work, these are a good investment. And then, you know, we've just got our good old 2B, and that's a great way to get started too. So.
All right, great. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Tiffany, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for
Very
this wonderful
welcome.
session. Just getting praises in the chat right now. So
Okay.
thank you,
Good,
thank you,
good.
thank you. I just want to remind everyone that this session was recorded. Let me just remove the spotlight so folks can see me. This session was recorded, and that recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel in about 2 weeks. So you can look out for it there, and I'm going to be putting the link to our YouTube channel in the chat in just a moment. I really do hope that you all enjoyed today's session, and be sure to check out our Creative Creations virtual discussion group that takes place every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can work on your craft, whether it be drawing or even knitting, etc., together with fellow Senior Planet participants. So I'm going to put the link to that group in the chat as well. And lastly, I'm going to drop a link to our Senior Planet community group, A Space for Creatives. You can get inspiration for your creative projects and connect with other creatives just like you. Okay, and you can find those links in the chat momentarily. And then the last thing that I'm going to put in the chat is a link to a survey. We want to know how you enjoyed, what you think about this event, if you enjoyed it, what you thought we could improve on, because it will be helpful for us in shaping and creating similar programs in the future. So I'm going to drop those links in the chat now so that you all can have them. And we thank you all for joining us today.